Yes, now I hear you. Okay, sorry.
So the countdown going on here. 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Welcome to this very special session. We are going to talk about innovation in content distribution. Now, you may have already visited some of the sessions this morning, so you know how it works. I've got a lovely panel with 4 speakers. I'm going to introduce you very shortly to them. But there's also a chat going on, and you... Oh, I've got something going on double here. What I want to explain to you is that there's a chat going on. And in this chat, you can also ask questions. And we want questions from you guys. But we also want to use the chat to connect you to each other. Because it's interesting who is here and who is listening to this discussion. So let me just go to the chat and say, what do you think is the most interesting innovation in content distribution? Introduce yourself and just say, I think where things are going, or I think innovation is really taking place here. This is also a question we are going to ask our speakers. Now, who do we have here? Let me just first very briefly introduce them before I do a short communication with them. Roland Sars, CEO of Media Distillery. Raise your hand so everybody can see you. There you are.
Hello, good afternoon.
I'll come back to you in a second. Ivor Micallef, Director of Entertainment of Telenet in Belgium. Just launched. There you go. Just launched an interesting new service we'll discuss. Ignacio García-Legaz, Director of TV of Vodafone Spain. You see him, he's over there. Right. Yes, absolutely. And last but not least, Frank Rippl, Head of TV for Deutsche Telekom in Germany. So there we have it. Yes, we have different countries, different services. Now, first, briefly to know who we have here and why it's so interesting what they have to share. Roland, I'll start with you. Media Distillery, you're the CEO. What does it do? What service do you provide to this sector?
So Media Distillery, I think we are the only vendor in this panel today, actually. All the other panelists are operators.
Yes.
Content distributors.
You can pitch they're your clients. Now go on.
Who knows? So what we do is we basically help our customers, which are TV operators or broadcasters or OTT providers, anyone basically creating or distributing content. We are helping them with create a better user experience going from how the video is being displayed in a video platform, but also enabling them to create a better search, better recommendation. It's a better content discovery, if you will, in total, by understanding what is inside the video. So we basically distill all video data. That's where the name Media Distillery comes from. And we understand exactly what is inside. And this goes way beyond the existing traditional metadata, which is very basic. Let's say the title, a very short description, and a stock image or a standard image. And we can go much deeper by looking inside the content. What is being talked about, who is talking, what is the actual topic, when does a commercial break start, and what would be the nicest image to actually show this program or this VOD series within a catalog or in a VOD platform.
And just to understand more completely, so you generate a new generation of metadata, which is much more detailed and can, I could even ask, okay, show me all the programs that have a giraffe in them. It's visual recognition. You can visually recognize the things that are in the programs and then generate metadata on the basis of
exactly,
that, right?
Exactly. And so we look inside the content. I'm not sure if the giraffe is the most compelling example.
Just like something striking.
You could for example, say like, hey, show me all the latest about the US elections or about some kind of trending topic, which is currently active and being talked about in a certain country.
But could you also search for things that you individually think are super interesting, but are not served like right now with other needs? I mean, use elections, okay, we know, but could you say, I'm interested in tractors, so I want anything that has to do with tractors? And because you visually recognize it, you can find even a series or a movie or a news show. Or
yes, definitely. Like you can search for individual, well, let's say objects or individual people or individual brands, if you will, or anything like that, which is particularly interesting for you. So yeah, we can basically search inside content rather than just in the title of a TV show.
And we're going to discuss this later on, but you are based out of the Netherlands. You're serving several companies in Europe right now with this kind of metadata, right?
Yeah, correct. So we're well, analyzing about 20,000 hours of video on a daily basis for many TV operators throughout Europe, but also in Latin America. So yeah, we're doing this on a large scale already. Thank you.
So we know a little bit about what you do and who you are. Ivor, Director of Entertainment for Telenet in Belgium. You have recently launched a really big new service. Could you tell us a little bit about what you are doing there?
Yes, sure. So indeed, we recently launched a local SVOD offer in the market as a joint venture with another commercial broadcaster in Belgium called DPG. Yeah, in the past, Telenet used to have its own content offer, which we marketed under the brand name of Play. But in that case, Play was only offered to Telenet DTV customers. In a traditional telco perspective, we always had this view of integrated content offers that we build, that we own ourselves and we give to consumers as an add-on to our business. But of course, as the market has been evolving into a very OTT-centric streaming world, we saw that we could bring this product to another level by opening it up to the whole market, especially in Flanders for the time being, not yet the full Belgian market, and do that in partnership with even other local players that help us together to build the strongest local content offer.
So you really work together because DPG is also a publisher, they have TV channels,
absolutely,
they're
yes.
a really big content factory, right? So
yeah,
you work
exactly.
with them, but you also work with competitors of DPG, other content players, or?
So we have the joint venture is set up between Telenet and DPG. So you already combine two of the three main content creators in the market. Next to that, we have a deal with VRT, which is the local public broadcaster. So their content offer, which is a very rich content offer, is also available in the streaming service. And on top of that, we have an exclusive deal with HBO to be the home of HBO with all the content of HBO integrated in the streams offer.
So if I subscribe to streams, I have my local public broadcasters, I have a lot of additional commercial broadcast content, I have HBO, but I don't have Netflix, for instance. I mean, there's still, you know, people still probably will combine this with something else. Exactly. Or do you want people to just do streams?
No, of course. I mean, that would be an illusion if we think that consumers will only take streams from us. We do believe, and with all the research that we've done, that consumers will combine a number of services. They will not go all the way and take all the services in the market. But being a local SVOD product, we strongly believe that local consumers will combine streams next to the likes of Netflix. Yep. And we see them very complementary to each other. And of course, you're going to be competing for eyeballs and minutes watched between the two services. But we're not expecting our service to be the only succeeding service in the market.
And what do consumers pay for streams?
Yeah, it's a paid product, yes. It's a pure SVOD service with two flavors. It's a flavor that is focused on series and a small selection of movie, and an add-on service that brings you first pay movies included with the studios that are not yet going in a direct-to-consumer themselves.
Okay, some exclusivity. Okay, we'll come back to that as well. Ignacio, you have a product at Vodafone Spain where you actually combine everything, right? You try to offer everything to the subscribers. Can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Oh, sure. I mean, a few years ago, we started this path on aggregating third-party players. We obviously have, let's say, our traditional pay TV offer with lots of channels and transactional and so on. But instead of building our own service, we decided to start engaging with the big players as well, with local, let's say, OTT. So we added at the beginning Netflix, then we added HBO. We have also Amazon on board. We have filming and others happening, starts as well, and we have a few of, let's say, more niche services like Acorn based on British series, Planet Horror for horror movies. So we are basically trying to build the largest offer on movies and series, which is our positioning. We have integrated these services as part, of course, of the build, but also in the user experience, so consumers can choose and find content in a full transparent way without knowing where the content is coming from. And obviously, we have also integrated the different services in the commercial structure. So
just a question, you say the users can use the content without seeing where it's coming from. So I could call up a series and not even be aware that it's HBO or Netflix? Or is that more for all packages outside of that?
No, so from the user experience, when you, let's say you want to watch whatever, a documentary or series, and you go through the rails and go drama series, you'll find a number of posters, and it doesn't matter where the content is coming from, because indeed some of this content or these assets might not be exclusive in some cases. So when you finally go to the, let's say, the screen or the poster where you have all the synopsis and directors and so on, you will have a let's say, a button where you select where do you want to watch this content from. So it can be in existing, it can be already in the platform. It's Vodafone, or can be Netflix, or can be in HBO, or can be in several services at the same time. And depending on which ones of these services you have in your package you have signed for, you choose for one or the other. So that's the way.
That is a step ahead, because in this household you have to go, oh, I want to see this and this. You have to, is it on Netflix? Is it on Disney? Is it on HBO? Is it on? You sort of
this is
put this layer in between.
This is the problem we are trying to solve from different angles. One is obviously from the consumer experience that simplifies the process and allows the customer to choose the content based on what is the mood or what they want to watch, independently of where the content is coming from. But also because from the branding perspective and from the perception of the customer, we add value there. It's Vodafone who's bringing this all together.
We'll visit that again later on, because I think the user interactivity and the UX is becoming a really important part of the innovation in content distribution. Just to wrap up your introduction, you have 1.5 million subscribers and 16,000 movies and 95,000 programs. It's a big service, in Spain, and you're growing, whereas some others are not growing. Yep. Okay, let's introduce Frank as well. Frank Rippl, Head of TV for Deutsche Telekom. What does Deutsche Telekom do? Tell us.
Yes, so I'm in the European segment, representing TV product in our European segment. In Deutsche Telekom terms, that's our countries from Poland over Czech, Slovakia, Hungary. So all T-branded and companies, and I'm responsible for doing the product development.
Yes. And what are you developing? What is it you are developing?
So our markets are quite different. Yeah. So our market position is also quite different. We have new entrants and we have established pay TV providers in our portfolio. And essentially, bottom line, what we are doing is, and what we're talking about today is innovation in how to distribute content and make it easier for customers in an appified world. That we have content available in multiple sources, not only in pay TV operator portfolio, but also in Netflix and Prime Video. And there, of course, we are working a lot in differentiating there and to develop a user journey and make it easy for customers to find content, like Ignacio was just explaining, that a content can be available in different sources. and make it visible where it is available in our store, which is our user interface, and also make it easy searchable is key to differentiate in that area.
Yeah. So there's the discovery part, and I mean, we always have 15 minutes to introduce you guys, so we really should dive into the innovation part. And I think there are 3 topics to discuss, is like the content strategy, distribution channels, but also the recommendation discovery, and which is very close to the user experience, the user interface, and the different new ways that users can call up content and access content. But let's start with content strategy. I mean, we already heard a little bit, okay, the importance for local content, the importance of having the big players, HBO, Netflix, and so forth, in the offering. So sports, for instance, I think, Ignacio, you have everything, but not sports, right? I mean, you don't focus on sports, whereas others go more for the linear channels, the live channels, the sport. Who wants to go first? Where's the real innovation taking place at the moment when it comes to the content strategy?
Well, I would say, I will take this because you mentioned my market. I think each player has to find its own, let's say, competitive space. I would say that regarding sports, we decided that was not the space to compete because the inflation on cost and lack of profitability, but also because there are other categories which much wider appeal in terms of size, talkability, let's say the amount of content it's available. So at least in the Spanish market, when you go on social and even people and your friends, people would be talking about what is the next series you need to watch, and that's probably was not the case 10 years ago.
They won't talk about Barcelona versus Madrid or anything,
well, some
right?
people do, but obviously the coronavirus has not helped that neither. So, but
it's
in general, I think
to not have sports. That's true.
Well, that was a lucky one from this. But I think in terms of the whole industry is clearly in terms of budgets is moving into this kind of entertainment series production and so on. And obviously this is coming, let's say, top down from the production and the studios and the Netflix and the HBO and so on, who are increasing their budgets to the consumers. So I think from just pure the category, I would say that series mostly is what is growing. I don't know if the word is innovation, but it's clearly what is being demanded more by the consumers.
Yeah, so series,
the category.
But it's not necessarily innovation, but that's the consumer habits are veering towards series more than anything. And you feel you can skip sports, but again, somebody else will do the sports because people love sports and live TV. How do you, Ivor and Frank, how do you see that? And then we'll come to Roland on how he can help this kind of service, of course.
So we of course have a sports offering, which we brand under the name of Play Sports. We've always seen ourselves as an entertainment curator with a focus of making sure that we have the widest range of relevant content. We never really wanted to be the pay TV operator that gives access to all content at all costs. That was never our strategy. But of course, in the last years, it has changed. Where in the past, we were dealing with the studios and content creators to buy content and license content from them to compose our own packages. We are now changing our content relation to also technology players that have their own platforms, their own consumer relations, and their own services in the market. In this new space, we find our way how to bring in the selection of content that is anyway going to be relevant and interesting for consumers, and find where we can play a differentiating role in that space.
But it must be really hard to differentiate if everything offers everything, right? Everybody offers everything.
Super hard, because you compete with major players. First of all, you're not just competing with a lot of small local parties. You're competing with Disney's, HBO's, Netflix that have huge budgets, not only to produce content, but also to build big platforms with tremendous features and engagements on their own platforms. So yes, it is very difficult to find ways how to differentiate yourself in the modern world. Same goes for sports. In our case, traditionally we always had the rights for the local league. Now 11 Sports became very aggressive in the local market as an OTT player, acquiring the rights for also the Jupiler Pro League. And that has changed also the way we interact now, not with the league themselves, but with a player like 11, and how do we add them onto our service for us to be able to add.
So you wanted to have the sports rights yourselves, then you didn't get them, then somebody else gets them, then you start cooperating with them, so you still can aggregate and offer the complete service.
Yeah, for as long as content really matters to consumers, we're going to go to build those discussions and partnerships with the players that have it.
I must say, it is a very competitive market, of course, especially with all the Silicon Valley money and the really big players coming in and producing so much new content as well. This back and forth will go on for a while. We have the rights, and somebody else buys you, then you cooperate, then you bundle it again. Then, Frank, how does Deutsche Telekom see this?
I think Ivor said something very, very important, that you have, let's say, the challenge around content or competition around content is getting more intensive, and you have OTT players which are bidding for sports rights, and we have seen this in various markets. So our way to deal with it is essentially partner also with these players, because we see ourselves as an aggregator, and I think that makes perfectly sense. If you don't get something exclusively, but it's relevant for customers, then we get it on board on our platform, and that will be the play to go for. And
so the aggregator of aggregators and
exactly.
all kinds of different bundles. And then, Roland, now you have a chance to chip in, because that, of course, if you have all that together, it makes sense to generate new metadata to sort of organize that for the consumer, because the consumer can get confused a little bit if there's so much on offer. Is that the discovery of new content? Is that part of the offering as well that you do with the media distributor?
Yes, it is. And well, referring to what Frank mentioned earlier, like today's market is kind of amplified. Everybody's using different platforms. I believe in the US, average households have like over 7 OTT subscriptions nowadays, which was mentioned in one of the panels earlier this morning. And you see also more and more competition by operators with, let's say, their traditional content suppliers. So with broadcasters, every broadcaster is also creating their own OTT environment with a small subscription fee. And I think that raises the question, like, okay, what is linear actually? Like, does linear refer to, let's say, the ones who create the content, so broadcasters by origin? Or does it refer to the way that such content is being distributed, which is like with an EPG and a timing and a set time that you need to watch?
Even Netflix now has started a linear channel, right? So
exactly, and I think linear content by origin is actually quite different from VOD. VOD is more about series and movies, obviously, and maybe documentaries. Linear is more maybe about sports, which makes it quite relevant. News, talk shows, consumer programs, like big family shows, like talent shows and that kind of stuff. But, and still like a vast group of people is watching live still, but it's getting less. But I think that the key lies in how the various types of content is being distributed. Because I think if you can create like linear on demand, so to say, like linear content, but then offered in on demand form, like with a poster in a reel or in a carousel, categorized according to someone's own personal preferences, then you basically have, let's say, the power of linear content. And this can be news, or this can be sports, or let's say the non-traditional video on demand content, but offered in a video on demand way. And this is particularly the way that consumers would like to consume content nowadays, because that's the way how they, well, have been using or consuming content through the Netflix and the Disneys of this world.
Okay. So let's pick that up again, because we want to talk about distribution channels. I mean, I think one thing that is strange to mention as an innovation, but I mean, there's also something going on with libraries, old series. I've seen my 13-year-old watch all, 16 rounds of Friends twice. I mean, this is innovation in content, not content distribution, but the innovation is just bundle it up and bring it back again. And 13-year-olds in the Netherlands have all seen it. talk about distribution channels. Smart TV, set-top boxes, apps only, direct-to-consumer platforms. Who wants to go first? Oh, well, let's take Deutsche Telekom, because you play a big game, right, in many different markets. What is your feeling? What is happening overall here?
I think from these platforms will get increasingly relevant, and if you want to play a role in these in that industry, you need to be present in these distribution channels and being present on smart TVs, because the apps are there already, the Netflix and the Prime Videos of the world, and we need to be present with our services and our content there as well. How we expose that content in that user experience is also a very important thing. So if you think about an Android TV, smart TV, if you don't expose your content to the search, which is built into that platform, your content is not relevant and not existing in that search. And that's an important part too, of course.
Is it an innovation though? It's more like a problem to solve, right? I mean, it's like, okay, this is out there. We have to sort of make sure that what we have is searchable everywhere. And
I think innovation, when it comes to voice search, which will increasingly change the way of how customers and consumers will work with their device, then of course there's a high impact. If I ask my Google where I can find content on a particular artist, then I would like to be present with my content there, which I have as in my portfolio. The same is for football games, exposing that content. Yeah?
And the voice, I mean, I would classify the voice search on a new type of interface. It's not necessarily changing the distribution networks that it goes over, but you know, it's a new type of interface to get to content.
I was coming there from the smart TVs.
Maybe that's where the real innovation right now is taking place. Ignacio and Ivor, what do you think?
Well, I think in general, consumers want to have the possibility of choosing devices. That's one thing. The other is that there are implications of let's say financial on the operator side when either providing their own set-top box or allowing the customers to use their own devices, because obviously there is less impact on capital, but higher cost on maintaining these numbers of apps. But I think what is going to make at the end the driver is how different, or the other way is how close can be the experience on all these let's say third-party devices or consumer electronics versus the experience on the set-top box. So I think everybody on the operator side is making sure that the set-top box has the best experience, whether it's including the voice control or external speakers or advanced user experience searches and integration of third parties, seamless, let's say, provisioning. I mean, a lot of things that you can provide in a device that you control end to end. If we are able to replicate that on a smart TV, there would be less than a need for us to be in the set-top box space. If the gap in terms of capabilities is big, then consumers will see that if in order to get everything, they'll need to get a set-top box. So I think it's going to be a combination. We've been doing that already for close to 6 months. And right now we have a high number of customers that are already getting, let's say, a boxless proposition without a set-top box.
So they don't get a set-top box? So what do they get? They get a remote control? Do they get?
No, they don't get anything. They just get the offer.
Oh.
So
they
get the offer. So you can get any of the TV packages. It's independent of your, let's say, connectivity. You can get them through mobile, or you can get through broadband, and you can get a set-top box, or you cannot get or you decide to go on your own. So you have all the combinations, but at the end, the customer what chooses is the, let's say, the entertainment proposition. And if they want a series pack that includes channels and, I don't know, HBO, well, they can decide to watch that on the Vodafone TV app on their smart TV, or they can sign for or get a set-top box and pay a rental fee.
Or on the mobile phone?
On the mobile phone or whatever device.
And they can do that only over Vodafone networks, or did you just say any network?
Any network.
Okay, so it's like a bundled subscription package. You just choose what you want and you see it where you want it. Is this the way you think it will go eventually, or is this hybrid form where you can choose anything will stay around for a long time?
Well, I think more and more we have more, let's say, options on connectivity. You have customers on HFC, on FTTH, on ADSL, on wholesale fiber, 5G. And also customers who are, let's say, more and more getting their own devices, or even their smart TVs are, let's say, more sophisticated or more capable. So I think what we try to do here is let's try to unlink, let's say, the entertainment proposition from the device and the network. So that allows us full flexibility. If we launch 5G access for broadband, you can get your TV on that.
It's looking ahead as well already to the 5G networks. Okay, and for Vodafone, where do you make most money or see most growth? Because I can imagine losing all the costs of the set-top box and so forth makes it a more interesting business. But then you become a TV business rather than a connection business, of course.
Well, the Spanish market is a full convergent market. So I would say 80% of the commercial activity happens on convergent offers that includes broadband, fixed and mobile plus TV. The margin, it's not on TV. The margin is on the rest of the connectivity. Because at least on the packages that we offer, let's say we decided a couple of years ago to offer very attractive prices and, let's say, a la carte model, so the customer chooses what they really want and they pay only for that. So we don't make too much money there, but we provide with the TV well, we are competitive for the convergent offer, and obviously it's a great element of increasing NPS and thus also reducing churn. So that's more or less
you reel them in and then never leave again.
Yes.
Well, Ivor, what happens in your markets?
Well, yeah, if I have to be honest, I think we have a love-hate relationship with these type of models. I mean, on one hand, as Ignacio says, we need to be present in these platforms. They help us reduce capex because we don't need to build set-top boxes. It's where consumers are, so we also need to be present there. But on the other hand, it's also an experience that we have less control of. We are an app next to many other apps where consumers are not immersing themselves into our experience. So it really has been playing an important role in shaping our choices step by step over the last years. And we have also been testing out propositions set-top box-less as well, where consumers get a TV offer from us without a set-top box, always in combination with mobile, with connectivity, sorry, but without our own set-top box, and seeing how consumers and the market is reacting to that.
And how do they react? I mean, what happens when you offer that?
What we've seen is that you have actually two groups of consumers that are reacting very differently. You have consumers that are coming from a traditional behavior of TV, but now are going in the world of streaming. And those customers actually understand that I can now watch TV without a set-top box, and I can use my smart TV, my Apple TV, and work without a set-top box. But then you have the mainstream consumers that when you try to explain to them an offer like this, they go like, then how will I watch TV? I mean, without my remote control, without my set-top box, where do the channels come from? And they're struggling, even if they know Netflix and they use Netflix and YouTube, they somehow struggle to see players like us as an app provider.
Yeah.
And then on the retail side, you have the devices that actually, if you look at the last years, has been exploding, right? We thought some years ago that we're going to go set-top box-less, but on the other hand, you have the Google TVs, Apple TVs, Roku sticks that are just booming more and more, and consumers are buying these devices more and more because they are cheaper, they are sleek, and you can get access to a range of services. So I believe that devices are going to stick around for quite a good number of years, and hybrid models are going to be more normal than just the extreme set-top box or OTT only.
Yeah, thank you. We only have around 10 minutes left, and really would like to dive into this idea that the user interface is now becoming the most interesting and innovative part of that whole chain. So there's distribution, there's content selection, you have all the bundles and the packages, and you have ways to bring it to the consumers on mobile and anywhere. So how do they interact? Voice was already mentioned. Who is doing voice very actively at the moment with their consumers? Using voice as an interface.
Yeah, our most recent box that we launched a couple of years ago has voice integrated, and I have to say we have completely been taken by surprise on how consumers are using it and how much they've adopted it.
And the surprise is mainly that they are using it a lot.
Yeah, exactly, because it's one of those features that you develop with a lot of expectations, but typically new features take a lot of time for consumers to be adopted. But in this case, voice is really becoming a very nice shortcut and easy ways for consumers to get to the content that they want, or to the channel that they want, or to the app that they want.
Okay. And since we don't have that much time, I would like to actually ask all of you, so what is the user interface innovations that you see coming, or what is coming when it comes to innovation in content distribution that we should all be looking out for? So I'm just going to ask everybody. Roland, you start.
Yeah, and I think regarding this topic in particular, I think the user experience is becoming one of the most important factors for consumers to actually select which program to watch content. Obviously, content needs to be good and it needs to be unique, maybe even exclusive. Price needs to be right, but in the end, I think consumers are getting more and more spoiled by maybe the pure OTT players when it comes to the ease of using an application, the way content is being visualized, and I think the most effort and the most investments of say video platforms should go into, let's say, as Ivor mentioned, creating shortcuts or creating, let's say, the shortest way to content they really like. And this can be either recommendations, and I think with recommendations, it's important that consumers don't feel fooled around, like, is this content that you want me to watch, or is that content of which you really think that I like it? And I think with many recommendation platforms currently, it's more the first one. And I think also voice search or voice creates a whole new way of opening up catalogs or data. By nowadays, many of the consumers, especially I think the younger generation, they don't know like what type of content is being aired on what type of channel with time of the day and such like. But what they do know is that they like anything about a certain topic or a certain sports hero. While if you actually search for those kind of content, often you don't find it. And I think having good content is very important, but having great metadata is even more important, because otherwise your data is there, but it's let's say not findable by the way that consumers nowadays search for content or navigate to content.
So there's one side, there's the metadata, and developments in that field of computer vision and AI machine learning are really going very, very fast. So what's there now, this will be exponential in a few years probably. So that's the whole data part, and helping then users find what they want to see, be it a recommendation or what they're actively searching for. And you know, that's one big innovation taking place. Who else wants to?
I want to catch up on the comment of Roland. I think the foundation of any UI and UI innovation is the presence of good metadata, be it in terms of pictures, be it in terms of metadata, and be it in terms of, let's say, searchable content, what Roland was just referring to. If I search for Ethan Hunt on the TV platform today, I will not find any movie on Mission Impossible. And that's one area where we need to improve and our metadata, how we see metadata and how we handle metadata. So metadata, I think, is the foundation of any UI and UX improvement and innovation in the future. Without that, you can have a nice design, but it will still not be a nice and good user interface.
And by that's still metadata based on the assets that you want to consume. What I sort of miss is I mean, what you see online is, of course, that an essential part of metadata is not just what it is, but who's watching this. Are my friends watching this? I mean, the social metadata, that could be a completely different kind of content discovery game as well. Ignacio, Ivor, what do you think is the most interesting thing happening at the moment? That's a difficult question.
I would say reducing, making the user interfaces less rich in the way that consumers find their way to get to content faster, as we discussed earlier on. And I do believe that from a pay-TV role perspective, finding newer ways to help customers find the content through the different services that they now start to get exposed to and subscribing to, and playing a role on guiding them through that journey in a personalized way, but in also a thematic way from a local angle, where we can anchor to the users by knowing what is going to be the heartbeat of that specific market in a moment in time.
So being very close, not just to the content, but being very close to your user and knowing more about the user. That's where the, okay, interesting. Because Ignacio, I noticed that Vodafone Spain, you actually have gone not from computer-generated metadata recommendations to personal recommendations, right? You have people saying you should.
Yes, I think a few things we found during the, let's say, the last research was that there is a growing amount of content that is going really, really fast. And you mentioned before, we have today over 100,000 assets in our catalog. And that amount of content is growing really, really quickly. But we have seen that one of the, let's say, biggest concerns of the consumers is what should I watch next? And obviously, the social component is really important. People always will have a friend that really trusts in the recommendations and follow those things. But also we have seen that, let's say, identifying really good assets in the catalog and raising them and recommending that based on the consumer can be, but also on the trends and what's happening, what directors did, whatever, something. There is a new movie of a director, let's say, reviewing the previous ones and trying to look on really other maybe trending content that is working really well on social, that people are, there is a lot of conversation on social. We bring that up in order to get others on board. So I think despite there is a lot of content, it is true that also, let's say, a big amount of that content can be relevant for a big amount of customers. And that's what we try to do. And we also believe that there is a value on the curation of the content curation for consumers in a world that each platform is always promoting its own content. Netflix is promoting theirs, it's saying this is the best, and HBO the same. And we, let's say, a horizontal position where we don't produce our own content. We just try to let's say, show which one is the best one.
Take a more neutral position there and help your consumer. We only have 5 minutes left. I was wondering, are there any questions from the audience? There is one which is very much about delivery. I'm not sure if it really fits this panel, but I'll ask anyway. How important is low latency delivery for sports in your market? I think it's very important everywhere. Where is it a differentiator for your service? But if anybody wants to answer that, I guess it's a vendor of low latency services, but could be.
We've been looking into that. We have been looking into that, and they are quite promising results, but not have implemented it yet.
And actually, that it could be a differentiator that people take your service over another because you have a
you
1
see
second
first
delivery.
when a goal is shot in a World Cup.
Yeah. It's very funny. In my street, you can actually hear which service people have. So in the World Cup, there's a goal, you can hear who yells first. It depends what service they have. Are there any questions from the audience? Ladies and gentlemen, don't be shy. This is your chance about innovation in content distribution. Because if not, then we're going to wrap it up. And I would like to thank all of you for sharing your wisdom And I hope to see you later on for my next session. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Monique.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.